guys, welcome to Leanne's Corner podcast. And today I'm Annie, the host of Talk Show today, and I'm so glad to kick off season 4 of STEM Talk. So, first of all, could you please introduce a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here in the first place. So my name is Harshit Chaturvedy. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. One of the notable things you probably know me from is being the founder of STEM Sprouts. At STEM Sprouts, we've been able to do a lot of STEM-related topics. We run numerous workshops, and our whole gig is to get children into STEM from a young age. On top of that, I've also done numerous talks, including TEDx talks. And overall, one of my goals is to become a full-time speaker one day.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, so for now we are moving on to part one, like motivation for learning and exploring STEM. So I am curious about what first drew you into the world of STEM.
So when people talk about STEM, I think there's numerous aspects to STEM. People obviously hear STEM, especially in American classrooms. People hear STEM as an acronym everyone sees on posters. They'll see the acronym that teachers point out every day, right? But for me personally, I first got drawn into STEM when I started with a coding project in the second grade. We got introduced to a program called Tinker, and Tinker works especially well with the program called Minecraft. So if you imagine a second grade version of me, getting to use a program that integrates with Minecraft is obviously the dream because you get to play games at school, right? But I think in general that was a big part of many STEM kids because getting to create new modifications or creating your own thing entirely was really what, in my opinion, gets the most people into STEM, and that's what we try to replicate at our workshops too.
That's wonderful. Okay, so another question of Lily. It's your turn.
Can you share a memorable experience from your STEM studies or project that you make more passionate about STEM?
One passionate moment from STEM. Let me
Yes.
think. Okay, so I remember during one STEM Straps workshop, I think it was covering AI. Yeah. During our STEM Straps workshop, we had to work with another organization called Future Lead, and their entire thing was business, right? So we had all the students break up into pairs of 2 and 3, right? And after we had everyone break up into their pairs, we had how can company A use AI in their company, right? And it was obviously a clothing company. So we thought people would say, oh, we could use it on their website. We could do it for shipping and handling. But then there's this one student who his idea really stood out to me because he mentioned in a clothing brand that it could help make the designs, which I thought was really unique because obviously there's the basic answers of helping with logistics, helping the user experience, but making entirely AI generated content was really unique to me. And I think in that's why I really love teaching with STEM. It's not just about learning, it also like brings up new opportunities and helps other people widen their perspective.
Yeah, that's really good. And for now, we're moving on to part two, behind the life journey of research and innovation. So I know that you are the founder of STEM Browse project. So what motivated you to begin your current STEM project? And what core impact did you have it would create to the whole community? Okay. What motivated you to begin your STEM project, especially STEM Sprout on Instagram, and what core impact or message did you have it would create to the whole community?
So one of my main motivations for joining or creating STEM Sprouts in the first place was that I kind of noticed that kids in my neighborhood didn't have easy access to STEM learning as I had the incredible opportunity as I did growing up. I think that was a big part of why I started STEM Sprouts, to give the students a place to explore STEM creatively and build confidence. The core goal is to spark curiosity and make learning fun so that students don't remember it again as an acronym that their teachers talk about, but instead an acronym that makes them experiment and innovate, right? And I think it also goes hand in hand with talking to the next generation about how we should take their learning into our own hands, making sure that we can do our own part in creating the next generation of STEM innovators, whether it be through the medical field, the engineering field, or even the mathematical field. Whatever the line for the next generation.
Okay, yeah, that's really inspirational story behind this. And Lily, it's your turn.
So, what is one insight that working in a real STEM environment has taught you, something you could never have learned from textbooks or a lecture?
Well, one of the most important lessons that I could not widely discussed in a STEM work in textbook or whatever, right, was that instead of referring to the four subjects of science, technology, engineering, math, right, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, as people say. But actually implementing those ideas is what's actually pretty crucial. And inevitably, you will fail, as everyone does, right? But those setbacks are really what teach you the most, because let's say you're building a company that's all about making the next AI company, say, right? Say you face an error. If you never face the error, you'd never be able to learn from that. So, and in some ways, mistakes are better for you, because say you caught that mistake maybe when you had 100,000 participants instead of 1,000 participants, right? The scale of your mistakes, the earlier you catch them, are definitely more important to when you get them, right? It's kind of goes back to the cliche point of, if you don't face setbacks in the first place, you never learn anything, right? It's very cliche, but it's really true.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, point of view. And for now, we are moving on to part three, like deep diving into the story. So, what is one STEM skill or way of thinking that completely changed how you solve problems in your everyday life?
I feel like a skill to actually grow and develop your own skills is an immensely demanding skill. Like, if you see a problem in your community and you know how to fix it, because it's likely a problem to other people in your community, right? If thousands of millions of people face the same problems universally, but if you're the one to like innovate and create a solution to solve your problem, you not only grew like the personal toolkit to solve that problem, you also got the recognition, right? Which is a big factor when you're trying to be a speaker like me, right? And inevitably, when you are the first or the pioneer to do something, you gain like valuable leadership experience, all of the textbook definitions of what doing something for the first time does, right? But overall, it can just make your soft skills 100 times better, if not even higher than that.
Okay, so how do you think STEM education needs to evolve to better prepare young people for future challenges?
I feel like STEM education right now is, again, just an acronym that's overused in schools. But then, if we're really talking about evolving STEM education to the next level, one of the things we could do is, especially one of the things we do at STEM Sprouts, is making more STEM education hands-on or more project-based. Personally, if you go up to any student, I can assure you most of them would say they would rather do a hands-on project where they can actually apply the skills they learned instead of taking a written test or memorizing formulas, right? So I feel like if we add the more creating and experimenting aspect to STEM education and combining that with collaboration, programs like STEM Sprouts can do that outside the classroom and not just in a controlled environment, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have another extra question. Like, you know that in some country, I think that there are the limited resources of accessing to STEM education. So, how can students or young children can find the opportunities to have wider access to STEM, except the classroom or the curriculum at school?
Sorry, repeat that again. I couldn't understand.
Okay. Okay, so I think that in some places there are still limited resources of accessing to STEM education. Yeah. So how do students and young children can find the opportunities to get a wider access to STEM? I think that's big. For example, some students in my country, like Vietnam, they do not know understand a better understand of what STEM is like and how it can benefit students. So how can we yeah, so how can we find it?
I feel like STEM, when people think about it, is an immensely money hungry field, as people say, right? If you think of the highest paying jobs, we'll have doctors in some fields, we have engineers, and we'll have all these computer related jobs, which are obviously lots and lots of money that not everyone has, right? If you think of maybe first world countries, they may have the money to supply every student an individual computer to do their work. But if you look at more third world countries, they may not have that same money. So ultimately, I think it's taking advantage of the limited resources that you do have. So let's say you are in a third world country, I would say take advantage of free programs, because if you look online even a little bit, my organization, among others, have dozens and dozens of free programs that are meant for third world countries that can inevitably afford less than countries that can afford more. But on the internet, especially, it's crazy how much information you can find online just by doing a quick Google search on medical tips on how to do this or engineering on how to do this, right? So I feel like if we can get internet access to the whole world, we can already solve maybe 60% of the problem. And the rest of it is just the hands-on materials, such as like the engineering concepts, right? But I feel like the internet is an immensely powerful tool that if we can get that to everyone, it could be crucial to kind of solving this problem.
Yeah, okay. That's an amazing useful advice. Okay, yeah. Thank you. And Lily, it's your turn.
So how has uh how has AI changed the way you learn or work?
AI, okay, everyone's favorite two letters. Okay.
Yeah.
So AI, for me personally, and within our organization, it's helped us a lot. Whether we're drafting emails to other organizations to partner with us, whether we're talking to companies to partner with us, whether we're trying to send a message within our group, formatting everything, AI is obviously a good thing for internal organizations, right? In fact, we've even run our own AI workshop talking about AI in different use cases, right? I'm going to go back to the example of the company example. And I feel like if we educate the next generation, or like the kids we have right now, right? Applications of AI that we can never think of. And there's always a big saying, give the laziest job to the, no, give the hardest job to the laziest person. In the current generation, we could definitely find new sources of uses for AI that we never even thought of.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Okay, so for now we move to STEM breaking stereotypes. People often think that STEM is only formulas and calculations. So how would you explain the creative side of STEM?
So STEM inevitably is really creative. People say STEM is just the science, technology, engineering, math, right? The four acronyms. But then STEM is also really diverse. So you could take STEM the way I took it, where STEM goes more into leadership and speaking. But you can also take STEM into more application-based projects, such as doing your own passion project or something like this, doing your own campaign. There's numerous methods to go about STEM, and I just believe it's highly reliant on your perspective on it. Personally, I think it's like a stepping stool to help me build skills. And there's dozens and dozens of STEM inclined competitions. Even if you don't opt to compete, it's still beneficial. And STEM conferences are another big thing. If conferences were only people who were presenting there, every conference would be about 10 people max. But the beauty of conferences is that instead of having 10 people in a almost 100 square feet room, you could have 10 people plus almost 400 attendees just listening to 10 people.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. And for now, we are moving on to part 4, the final session, giving advice and vision for young creators. So, what advice would you give to students who want to start long-term projects like initiative or the community projects, creative something, but they don't know how to begin at first?
I feel like one of the best things that I learned from starting this organization of STEM Sprouts was definitely have a long-term plan in mind. When I started my organization, it was initially just really scrambled. I threw two of my best friends onto my team. Okay, you're doing this, you're on my team now, right? But I feel like if I were to do it all over again, one of the things I would focus on is having maybe a plan that reaches maybe 6-12 months at least. That way we could rethink all of our steps from day one, right? Instead of scrambling, oh yeah, in 1 month we're going to do that, and in 1 month we're also going to do that. Having a clear plan is definitely one of the things that we would work on, because it obviously helps you stay organized. And when you're running an organization, it's definitely important to stay organized, right?
Okay, yeah, that's a useful advice. And Lily, it's your turn.
Yeah, this is the final question for you today. If we could redesign how students can learn outside the classroom through the digital tools, creative media, or communities, so what would you change first?
Collaborative learning.
If you could redesign how students learn outside the classroom, what would you change first?
Oh, sorry. So I personally am a big fan of collaborative and hands-on learning in the classroom, which you'll hear from everyone, right? But I feel like it's really let students learn from various perspectives, even in our own STEM workshops. So if we have a diverse group of people, let's say A, B, C, and D, if A, B, and C don't have any ideas, but D does, D can introduce that idea to the whole group, and then they can all build on each other. Ultimately, if they were individual, they wouldn't have any ideas. Only D would, right? But if they work together, D could go off C, and then they could all work and inevitably create better ideas, because it's obviously better to have one good idea instead of having hundreds of already ideas, right? And I think that just goes to see that STEM is really just idea based, and the quicker you can have an idea and the faster you can execute it, and with what quality you can execute it at, that's a big factor in how successful your project can be, right?
Okay, yeah, that's an amazing point. Okay, yeah.
Do you
Okay,
have any further questions? Do you have any more questions?
Just only one question. If you could design a STEM experiment for kids that lasts only 10 minutes, what would it be?
STEM experiment for 10 minutes. Okay. I feel like it would definitely be a variable factor on what kind of kids I'm trying to teach. For example, if I was teaching a biology class, it would definitely be more biology inclined, right? But if I was talking in general, I'd try to implement all of the aspects of STEM altogether. That would mean initially having science into it, and then connecting it to technology, having an engineering challenge to it, having everything together if we're talking about a general audience, right? I feel like the best idea and my go-to idea is making a tower, some sort of tower, right? Where we could talk about physics and how towers actually stand up. We could talk about math and how it goes hand in hand with physics. Engineering obviously is a tower, right? And then we could link it to technology because you could do simulations. And I feel like if you're doing a general audience, it's obviously good to have all four aspects of STEM into it. But if you're focusing individually, it's better to go all in on one rather than doing all of them, right?
Yeah, that's really amazing. Like just the creative and significant experiment for kids. Okay, so I think this is the end of our talk show today. And thank you so much for having time with us today and sharing your ideas.